Welcome to ZINFI's Feet on the Street podcast series, consisting of educational conversations with influencers, industry leaders, and channel executives across the world. In this series, we will discuss evolving trends and real-life customer challenges with partner relationship management and automation. Listen right here to those road warriors with both feet on the street, discussing the dynamics of all aspects of partner ecosystems.
Morning, everybody. My name is Sugata Sanyal. I'm founder and CEO of ZINFI. I am excited to welcome a new guest today in our podcast, Craig Booth, who is the founder of Channel Force, a boutique consulting company helping organizations to innovate their go-to-market model and accelerate performance through strategy, structure, skill sets development, infrastructure development. So, Craig, welcome to our show.
Yeah, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on to the podcast and work with great people like you and Peter Minich as well. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited to kind of share some new thoughts and ideas.
Excellent. You've been, you and I have been talking for a bit, and looks like we've written some great books. As I mentioned to you, I downloaded them on my Kindle, and I've been kind of going through it. While we'll get into some aspects of that, but maybe you can take a couple of minutes and introduce your great background, and then kind of at a high level talk about how the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, how the market evolves as different companies of different sizes look at various go-to-market models.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds great. So first and foremost, again, my name is Craig Booth. I'm the founder and principal of Channel Force Incorporated. Been in business for a little over 4 years now. As Sugata mentioned, we specialize in building next generation go-to-market strategies and innovative products and solutions for clients to help them accelerate sales downstream. My background, I've had 30 years in technology sales. I'm one of the few people that probably didn't grow up in channel sales. I spent probably the first 15 years of my career in direct sales. I was over at, one of Juniper Networks, and I was on the service provider team over there. And part of my responsibilities were to get products certified to go to market for Verizon. And I got tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, we need to build a go-to-market strategy for how to sell through and with Verizon down to their end-stream customers. And that was my first sort of foray into channels. I didn't even realize I was going into channels. I thought I was on the service provider team selling, right? And, through that process, I ended up building some probably unique ways to go to market that generated some pretty amazing results. So, the team and I that I led, we went from $5 million to $111 million in 5 years running a structured performance model. So that's a little bit about my background. I've spent the last, 15 years of my career in more on the partner side of it, on the business development side of it. And it's really all about helping our partners generate greater revenue. So that's my background as a whole.
That's pretty awesome. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the type of companies you work with, in verticals you work in. What are the typical sizes? And then we'll talk a little bit about, the direction where the market is going.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So I've worked with companies really of all sizes. I've been with a couple of companies that are right at that $1 billion threshold. And I've done some work with companies of that size. I've done work with companies that are startups, so they're Series A, Series B, companies as well. So I'm kind of all over the place. It's really interesting, the background. Most of the companies I work with have been in the networking and security space. A couple have been in the warehouse management arena, but I've got some really interesting clients. I have one client that turns pig manure into biofuel. And I was looking to build a channel that way. So I've got some really interesting folks that I've worked with over the last 3 to 4 years. But, anybody that's looking to really accelerate sales through a partner community and wants a really structured go-to-market process to do that, those are the folks that I sort of gravitate towards. I would say if I had to nail down my ICP, it would be, Series B and greater. And it's anybody that's, again, been running an opportunistic channel model that wants better efficiency and faster growth rates from their channel. What I do really fits well into that.
That's terrific. So let's talk a little bit about networking and security, right? With AI stack coming entire computing architecture are going to get redesigned, right? And from all the way from client to server to cloud to network. And along with that, the biggest threat in security, possibly AI-driven bots that are already happening. They've been happening for a while. So let's kind of maybe focus into that area. It's an exciting area. You work with companies. There's a lot of startups in that phase. An enormous amount of money going into not just Series B, a lot of late stage companies there. We have a bunch of clients that have raised quite a bit of money and growing, including large enterprises. So let's break that down in a fast growth, high change environment that when you're using your word, when you're moving from an opportunistic channel model or go-to-market model to a more structured model, let's talk about maybe two sizes, mid-market and enterprise, right? So what do you see changing in mid-market from a go-to-market perspective when someone who has raised a lot of money, rapidly trying to build an ecosystem, how are they planning to go to market if they're in networking and security space?
Yeah, so irrespective of maybe the vertical there, and I know that, I wish I could say, hey, this is what the security space is doing and whatnot. But what I think is really more important in that space is that we're seeing a lot more technology adoption on the go-to-market side, right? So things like AI-driven outreach. So we're seeing more automation in that space. Digital selling platforms are also on the rise in that space. So that, we're allowing clients to self-discover, come through their own, intelligent buyer's journey, and we're capturing that data on the back end and then pushing that down to an SDR, BDR, rather than having SDR, BDRs out pounding the street. So there's a way to incorporate technology to reduce the overhead in those companies and produce those early results. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that sort of direction in both the security space and as well as the, going down to the segmentation, the mid-market side of it. I think you'll see more technology adoption to reduce the cost of sale and to prove concepts before investing tons of money. So I think that's, at least what I'm seeing. It's out what I'm actually out positioning with a lot of those, with those, my clients in that space.
Which is great. So let's begin with the end in mind, right? You're talking about sort of the end customer, how they're looking for solutions is rapidly changing, right? And so the growth of these peer review sites like G2 and others and Capterra over analyst recommended buying process, then searching online. Of course, Copilot driven search is very different than when we would go into like a Google search. So tell us a little bit how you see the end IT organizations when they're procuring, like whether networking or security or anything on the computing stack. What do you see is changing rapidly there?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I think are happening. Gartner put out a report, I think it was a couple of months ago. I know there was a report, from 2 years ago about the changing buyer's journey and the fact that, 2 years ago, it was 44% of buyers didn't want to speak to a sales rep. The last report I saw showed 72% of people did not want to talk to a sales rep. But what we're doing is we're doubling down on the number of sales reps and SDRs, BDRs, and we're just trying to pound the market more and more. And in some ways, it's working against what we're trying to do. We have to figure out how to create outreach, and we have to figure out how to, build awareness and to create engagement with the economic buyer that we're targeting. But we're getting surrounded by noise. So this is where things like digital selling platforms are coming into play with intelligent buyer's journeys, where you're allowing the client to drop in. It could be, he's got insomnia or she's got insomnia at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and they jump onto the computer. They go through an intelligent buyer's journey where they're reading an ebook. They're going through a use case for a solution. The content's changing as they're answering questions in the intelligent buyer's journey, and it's walking them through kind of an education process all the way to a compel, all the way to a buy process. And they're learning about the product in a self-paced journey. So I think you're going to see more of that type of technology being put in the market today. And I think you're going to see buyers sort of heading down that process. And what we've got to do in, taking it back to the channels, we've got to equip the partner community to be able to use their reach to economic buyers and insert people into these digital selling platforms. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that type of thing, stuff going on.
That's quite fascinating. So if you think about like the two part trying to address the end buyer, the brand itself that wants to distribute through an indirect model, and then the partners who are taking those solutions to the end customer, who do you think is adapting faster rather to this kind of front end change? How the buyers are looking for, searching, evaluating. Is it the brand or is it the partner? Is it the both or neither? Where do you see the changes happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not really sure, who's adapting fast enough. What I will tell you is, not to make a sidebar comment, but there's so much innovation going on in channel today. Like everything is what we did 10 years ago. Nobody's doing that today. Everybody's finding new ways to go to market. They're incorporating new technologies to make things more efficient in the way that they go to market. So there's lots of innovation on the partner side. The customer side is in the same boat, right? Think about all the ways that we are reaching out and connecting with customers today. 10 years ago, social media was just starting in its infancy. Now we're full blown in this whole social media outreach. And we're thinking about multiple ways to get to people. There's all outreaches. I'm getting text messages now. We're being bombarded with ways for people to connect. But the reality of it, no matter how you slice it, whether it's the innovation that we're doing on outreach and things we're doing on the partnering side, or whether it's the consumer, everything still comes down to relationship. People buy from people, and people buy from trusted sources. So it's the fastest outreach in my mind, and the fastest way to generating a sale is to leverage a relationship that you have. And so technologies that sort of bridge both the digital world and align us with real meaningful relationships, I think those are the ones that are going to win in the long run.
So let's build on the word trust, right? So whether it's a relationship between the brand and the partner, or brand and user, or partner and end user, in the tech space, especially networking, computing, security, in that stack, the analysts organization, the big names, right? Without mentioning them, I think we know who they are, played a big role, right? And when you think about the rise of these peer review sites, do you see that influence on a new brand, right? Established brand is very different when you're looking at a multi-billion-dollar brand that has been around innovating or acquiring to bring solutions to the market. That's one set of player. But going back to your, one group of customers, Series B or late stage or just gone IPO or rapidly growing, if those brands are trying to influence the buyer from a trust perspective, how do you see the analyst world versus the peer review sites? How is that playing out from buying habit or buying approach perspective?
Yeah, so obviously the analysts are working at the C-suite within companies, and they're helping you set strategic direction with companies. They're showing where the future is going from a technology standpoint, the things you have to get out in front of. So I do think there's a lot of influence when it comes to, budgets and direction and planning, those type of things that the analyst community are doing quite a good job with. Down at the street level, the operational folks, they're not really concerned with what the analysts are doing. It's the guy that's showing up and showing them, hey, we just deployed this. The neighbor who just deployed a solution, talking to his neighbor, talking to somebody else in that trusted network, that's sharing what they're doing and how they're doing it and the success that they're getting. That's what's moving the needle. So I don't think one or the other. I think it's a combination of both, but somewhere in the middle is where they both sort of meet. People have to sit down and evaluate technology, see it in a real world scenario, understand how that technology fits into their specific use case. And it's the testing of that, it's the proof of value of that solution that's going to make that sale. So I see it kind of, from an influence standpoint, it's kind of both.
Okay. So coming back to market segments, mid-market versus enterprise, Series B or later stage company, they're possibly, entry end of the mid-market. As they're growing, if they have, let's say, $100 to spend, right, with this rate of change, and using your term, moving from kind of an unstructured, opportunistic partner development model to more a structured model. If you were recommending someone, let's say 50, 100, $150 million in revenue, they're trying to rapidly grow, how should they, in your mind, allocate the dollar? Should they spend more investing in these next gen front end technologies, or should they go back and training the partners more? Because what I'm hearing from you, both sides are changing. They are bringing in innovation to market, and how they sell in the front end is also changing. So you have a fixed amount of dollar, right? You can't put equal effort. How do you think someone who is developing a partner network, where do they want to allocate their dollar first?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think that in some ways it can be both, right? So, and let me kind of explain what I mean by that. So, first and foremost, if you're starting with, foundationally, we need to have a partner program. We have to have the constructs of how we partner with our community and how we put fairness and incentives in place and all those other things. So we have to have that foundational stuff in place. But as we start to look at how we go to market and we go back to that opportunistic, side of it, personally, I think there's just a big change. So we started off with fulfillment models, and I call that 1.0. And that was your traditional bar distribution model. And we all lived that. It started in the 1980s. When things started to move to the SaaS model, and cloud markets started showing up, we moved to what I consider 2.0, which is flexible consumption. And that flexible consumption is about how we co-innovate with partners and the ecosystem side of it, but it's also how we make it really easy for our client to pick and choose the right solutions. So we buy from the cloud market, we go into the market ecosystem, and we choose one company for design, another company for installation, maybe another company for support, right? So we're kind of mixing and matching to build the right solution for us. That's the ecosystem play today. But the bigger piece is the go-to-market at the end of that. There's an evolution above flexible consumption, and it's structured performance. And when I talk about structured performance is from the partner to the target market. Today, it's wild, wild west. We do enablement, and we, expect the partner seller to go out and message our value to their clients and kick in deal registrations. But it's all unstructured. But what if we sat down and said, hey, we're gonna move you to strategy enablement. We're gonna teach you how to sell our solution, and we're gonna give you a recipe that we want you to follow. And then two, we're gonna score a set of accounts, and we're gonna score your relationship in a set of accounts. And those scores and this target account planning approach is gonna fit into a coverage model at the territory level within the vendor's sales community. So a sales rep has 100 accounts. We're going to start looking at that sales rep's relationships within those accounts. We're going to start looking at the partner community's relationships in those accounts, and we're going to start scoring and assigning accounts based on those relationships. And then the uncovered accounts, where nobody has a relationship, we're going to recruit partners for that, but we're also going to have ABM and AI-driven outreach to connect with economic buyers so that we create a complete coverage model. So that's what I mean by structured performance. We're all the way across the board. Everything from the revenue planning to strategy execution is formally mapped out, and we are measuring the activity levels all the way across the board and generating new channel ops dashboards that sort of show the progress and number of active sellers and account engagements that we have. So that's what I mean by structured performance. So going back to your original question, if you had money to spend, where would you put it, right? I would put it in a combination of building a structured performance model and then investing in some of the newer technologies to support that model.
Awesome. So two big ideas, right? One is moving from kind of a hardware driven, you pay up front and then upgrade 3-4 years down the road to this whole consumption-based economy, right? That's a big idea for the channel that's been evolving rapidly. And the second dimension of it is going from this unstructured, throw it out there and hope it sticks, to more purpose-driven, pre-designed, strategy-driven, performance-driven, right, growth, right? So I'm going to come back to those because these two are big ideas. But let's take a step back a little bit as we move into this consumption-driven economy where the brand can directly fulfill, reach out to the buyer, maybe through a partner network. How do you see distribution evolves into this sort of new economy, new model?
Yeah, this has been the challenge for distribution all along, right? I mean, in the past, they were the ones that held the credit, right? And so that was a lot of the role of distribution in that format. But as people have the opportunity to go direct, the distributor has to start layering additional value. And I think where they're going to layer value is in helping the enablement of partners downstream, to helping to recruit partners downstream, but then also building, again, going back to that structured performance, aligning a structured performance model into those partners, capturing the prospecting activities, delivering reports back upstream to the vendors to show the value that distribution is bringing with the partner community to accelerate sales downstream. That's where it will, distribution it's heading, and this is what they're trying to accomplish at this point. But it's tough going. You have to get buy off, and when you start thinking about it from the vendor standpoint, if I can't accelerate a bunch of sales, why am I paying more for distribution downstream? There has to be a value in that for me to pay more for somebody to fulfill an order. So I think you're going to find it's going to be a lot more performance-based revenue in the distribution.
Yeah, so we're going to bring these three big ideas together, right? So let's talk kind of one at a time. So distribution traditionally has been a bank and a warehouse. Then they kind of evolved into this funded model to provide better structured services and taking care of performances from the long tail, right? Because vendors would typically keep the top tier partners direct and put the tail to the distribution to get a scale and economy to bring some structure to what you kind of call throw it out there model, right? So now when we move from kind of a bank and a warehouse to more and more service and skill centric, because the hardware is also being provided hardware as a service. So it's no longer ship it and forget it. It's ship it and serve it. And so both hardware and software look the same. Services always look the same. And the partner network or the channel has evolved into more of a service-based managed services economy versus, a guy, a bunch of stuff in their trunk going around and dropping firewalls or hardware or whatever to more, right? Own an account base, serve the account base. So there is a natural force going from this throw it out there to get structured. And run rate allows you to step back and look at inputs and outputs, build relationships, build a structured model that ship it and forget it kind of model didn't allow, right? So talk a little bit how, as we kind of think through whether you're a post-series B or whether you're a mid-market or an enterprise, you have, let's now assume you have an existing partner network, right? You somehow built it. Now you're trying to focus on building performance because interest rates are high, talent is scarce, this whole big thing called AI is coming, you don't know how to deal with it. So how do you take a structured approach to rolling out to a structured performance model if you have come from this kind of unstructured place and you have a bunch of partners out there who may or may not fit into the new model that you're trying to do? How do you make that transition as a brand?
Yeah, so, it's a good question, but I see it a little bit differently, right? So everything for me is about turning up active sellers. This whole discussion that we're having is around partnerships, and we just talked about long tail and distribution taking care of long tail. What are the fundamental changes in the model that I put together is that we start looking at the number of active sellers, and what we really care about is partner efficiency. So every one of those partners downstream has a select number of sellers. So whether you're, WWT, maybe you have 400 sellers, and maybe you're, in River and you have 15 sellers. Well, every partner program, everything that we're trying to do is really geared towards doing two things. It's turning a passive partner seller into an active prospective for your solution, and it's to create account engagement with your target accounts to generate meetings that lead to sales. That's what everything that we're trying to do. So going back to how do we sort of bring all these worlds together, and how do we sort of push structured performance downstream? The distributor, the vendor, the partner, it's all about leveraging your partner level relationships to get access to the sellers. In the model that I build, we create a structured target account prospecting list, but we layer over that a sales play. So a sales play that I build is quite a bit different than a marketing document. It literally is a step-by-step recipe that we want a seller to follow. Everything from identifying, what's a high probability opportunity to how we identify the right accounts to go after. It has a structured prospecting process called 4-3-2-1. All I want a partner seller to do is to prospect in 4 accounts that we've scored their relationship and we've scored the ICP score of that account. I want them to execute the campaign, the messaging campaign that we're going to go deliver. So we have an elevator pitch that we want them to go deliver if they have a direct relationship, or if they're leveraging a referral, or maybe it's not a trusted advisor relationship. We've got a set of messaging that we want people to go out and deliver in a sequenced campaign. We have a set of call scripts we want people to follow behind. We have a referral process that they're trying to engage folks in. And we're taking people all the way through a process where, hey, when I got the meeting, what do I do now? Well, here's the pitch deck that I want you to run. Here are the qualification questions that I want you to get the answers to. Here's the deal registration process that I want you to jump into now. When we get to the point of proving value, here's the demo script that I want you to align back with us and get this information so we can customize the demo. And again, this can be co-sell as well, or a lot of this is being done with, in conjunction with the vendor sales team. However, we're resourcing the entire flow, and then we're capturing the prospecting activity of that partner seller. When did they send the first email? What was the response that we got? Who was it that we, when we targeted that account? Who are the folks that we're engaging with? What responses are we getting from all of the outreaches that we're doing? And what that allows us to do is to, for me to build a dashboard that tells me how many active sellers we have, how many account engagements we have at any one time, what my engagement rates are, what my conversion rates are in meetings to quoted opportunity, what my average deal size is. And that channel ops dashboard allows us to manage the channel in a way that's never been managed before. What I really care about is the trending analysis of the number of active sellers I have month over month by TAM, by partner, by sales play. I want to know my engagement rates for a solution in a sales play, and whether I'm trending up or down on those engagement rates, whether I'm trending up or down on the conversion rates. So getting down to measuring active sellers and positioning active sellers, that's what's going to move the needle in all of this. All the other stuff, they're just sort of, it's circumstantial evidence of a big partner. Knowing how many active sellers I have, what accounts they're engaged in, the activity they're actually doing, that's what's going to really prove out the sales, model. So going back to the distribution side of it, leveraging distribution to help build the sales plays, to help run the enablement, to help run the target account planning process, and then aligning the results of that through their partner community back to the vendor. That's where I think you're going to see a lot of this going, and that's where I think this sort of next level of channel is going to head to.
That's pretty awesome. It makes a lot of sense. So what I kind of hear from you is putting together a target ICP, figuring out their buying behavior and buying motion, putting together a sales playbook, how to address that, right? And then align your partner go-to-market strategy, a framework, like who you're selling, what sort of skills you need on the partner base, and then focusing on a structured set of enablement, and then rolling the programs out and measuring performance and focus on gap fill basis, skill upgrade basis. How do you see automation play out in this whole sort of go-to-market as you try to execute the framework that you just talked about as a part of structured performance?
I love it. So when I was talking about that, looking at everything like a CRO would look at how he would want his channel to run. He wants the channel to fit into his playbook, not the other way around. So he's got a territory account list by sales rep. And again, going back to that account coverage, how it's pulling accounts and where we're mapping relationships, I see this whole AI outreach and I see the partner outreach to uncovered accounts. This is where we're leveraging technology to do that. This is where, companies like Rings AI and Splash Metrics, who I'm associated with, those companies I leverage in my model for digital selling platforms, as well as, AI-driven outreach into those uncovered accounts. And that's what sort of moves the needle. So I've got technology leveraged in ways that support places I don't have relationships. And then I've got partners and direct connections in places I do leverage relationships. And over time, we're going to create greater and greater coverage, greater and greater relationships that AI and digital selling helped us create.
That's terrific. So we talked about several big concepts. We still haven't talked about the M word, the marketplaces. So let's talk a little bit about, do you see marketplaces competing with distributions, or do you see marketplaces complementing distributions? How does go to market through this structured performance model that you're talking about? Where does marketplace fit in, and how does it impact? Because distribution is a major play, especially when you come back to hardware, right? SaaS, maybe you can get away with it to some extent. But what happens with marketplaces versus distribution?
Yeah, so I think I'll try and answer two questions that I heard in there. So between marketplace and distribution, I kind of see that as co-opetition. You can see that distribution, they're all setting up their own marketplaces right now, and they're trying to leverage those marketplaces with their partner community. And I look at marketplace as a fulfillment arm. Somebody had to build the demand for whatever was being produced, whether somebody went through their own self-paced buyer's journey to make that decision, or whether they went through a formal sales process with salespeople and market development or sales, opportunity development stories. So I absolutely see that there's definitely a need for the marketplace. It definitely shortens the sales cycle. It definitely allows for that flexible consumption along the way. I see that distribution is going to fit right into that model. They're going to build their own, and they're going to figure out how to leverage their partner community and their outreaches to try and drive people back into the cloud market. When it comes to the structure, the second piece of that question, in my mind, the structured performance model that I'm building, I don't really concern myself with how the client is going to procure the product. What I concern myself with is how do I build awareness and compel that person to get to a point to buy. And then when they're at the point to buy, they can decide how they want to do it. The partner cloud market, that's up to whatever the client wants to do. But I'm trying to leverage that partner for access, and obviously I'm trying to protect that partner when we do have a deal, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because if the partner, financials are going to move to more of a service-based economy, they rely less and less on the margin from the transaction, more on post-life cycle. So it's selection of the product and design of the solution and deployment of the solution and maintain. That's where the partner balance sheet or P&L is. Therefore, where the end customer buys from is kind of irrelevant to a partner, a solutions partner. And therefore, what you're saying is that whether the customer goes to marketplace, buy it as a bundle and ask the partner to deploy, or they go to a disti, buy a transactional product, that's sort of kind of irrelevant in this broader scheme of things.
100%. And by the way, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but by the way, every one of these partners is getting a deal registration anyway. So they're getting an incentive, and sophisticated vendors today are saying, hey, customer, buy where you want. I'm still going to take care of my partner for generating the lead and fostering that opportunity to a close, but you're not concerned about where it went in, what paper it's on, right? So, I feel like those things, to your point, are being decoupled in this modern channel.
So we're kind of coming to our end, but I wanted to kind of wrap our discussion through more from a transformation perspective. If I'm an organization where we kind of started with, I have an unstructured go-to-market, I want to move to a structured model. Talk to a little bit about, from a structure and skill set development-wise, how should I approach this as a brand? I'm $100 to $300 million in revenue. Maybe I have anywhere between 3 to 8 different product lines that I'm trying to go to market with, 2 or 3 different go-to-market models, right? Some are transactional products, some are solution product. If I'm beginning as a chief partner officer, a transition with you, what are the steps going to look like?
Yeah, so the first thing that I do, and again, this is quite a bit different. Nobody's really doing this today. So the first thing that I do is I take the revenue number that we're trying to hit. I have a tool called Planning IQ, where we'll take the revenue number in, we'll put down ask a set of questions. what's the average deal size for solution A? What's the average deal size for solution B? What's the, what's the sales cycle? What's your close rates? And I'll start to ask questions along those lines. I'd start to ask questions around my methodology. So the methodology that I build really turns the channel into a production line process. And, I'm going to try and build a unit of production out of every sales rep so that I know what it is by solution, meaning what my engagement rates are, what my conversion rates are, if they're operating, running our structured process. So I'm able to build that kind of intelligence into this tool, and I'll spit out a report that will tell you how many partners you need, how many engagements you need, how many active sellers that you need to produce by quarter. It'll tell you when your revenue is going to show up. I'll tell you your resourcing plan. I can tell you your MDF plan to fund it. I take that same thing and I have a tool, a component of that tool that we put or assign a number or quota or goal to a partner, and we'll run the same metrics to tell you how many target accounts that we need, how many active sellers you need, how many inbound leads I need to generate, how many people I have to push to events, how many outbound emails I have to put out. So all of this allows me to build a plan with that partner and have the metrics behind that. Then from there, we resource that plan. We build sales plays targeting specific market opportunities. And I went through that earlier, what that looks like, but it's literally a recipe that I want the partner seller to follow. We have that structured prospecting process, and we're going to capture that data in Salesforce or in another tool and Google Sheets that I have, and we're going to run reports on that, and we're going to put in a channel ops dashboard that we can manage to. And that's literally the process we're going to walk through to create this structured performance. But when you do that, we're not hit or miss because we're literally targeting accounts based on a list, and we've got an answer for every type of account on that list. We have a relationship, don't have a relationship, partner has a relationship. We have a playbook that we're going to follow to break in. We have a playbook that we're going to follow to engage. We have a playbook to compel. So again, there's a lot to this methodology, and I've got a couple of books that talk about how we do it. But the methodology works. It works really, really well. And the final comment I'd make is everything is moving towards profitable, efficient growth. We have very profitable channels that help grow, but are they really efficient? And by moving downstream and focusing on sellers, I don't need a huge partner community. I can have a smaller partner community that's more nimble. That 80-20 rule that we talk about, what if I can make it 50-50 or even 70-30 as far as engagement and revenue, because we're getting passive partners active and proactively positioning our solutions with clients. So that's the name of the game. That's what we do. And that's what this model does. So
that's fantastic. That is really fantastic. So thank you for laying out a roadmap. I sincerely hope a lot of our audiences can benefit from this, and some of them maybe even reach out to you for execution help. Love to have you back, Craig. Looks like there's a lot to talk about on 3 big ideas that you kind of talked about here. Thank you again for joining me today. I look forward to having you back again pretty soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic opportunity, and I appreciate you. So thank you.